What's up guys, Mason the Brock Henderson here. So first thing you'll probably notice is the quality of this video looks a lot better. And it's because I'm using my tablet now. I had this idea and I just thought to myself, why not give it a go? It's got to be better than my laptop is. So hopefully this does improve the quality of the videos overall. Hopefully it's just as easy to upload off my tablet as it is off the laptop. Second thing you'll notice is this is not really going to be a Chelsea review about the Premier League. Obviously, I'm still going to be doing my Chelsea reviews after every game, but I thought to myself, why not go ahead and do something different this year? Instead of just doing the Chelsea reviews, I'm also going to try to do a weekend review of the Premier League. So just look over every game. I already did a Premier League prediction table a few days ago, just kind of ranking teams where I thought they would be at the end of the year. So go ahead and give that a look. Obviously Chelsea at the top because that's where I expect them to be. And Man U, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Everton, Tottenham, Bournemouth, West Ham, Southampton, West Brom, Leicester, Palace, Newcastle, Swansea, Watford, Burnley, Brighton, Stoke, Huddersfield. So those are my predictions for this year. There's a little bit of bias in there, obviously. I want Chelsea to do well. I want them to go win the league again. They may not. Obviously, I think they will. But based on, I guess, this weekend, I'm going to look at it very unbiased. And I know a lot of people are still going to accuse me of being biased anyway, but I'm going to look at it as unbiased as possible and just look at every game, talk about how it ranks, how does this change their positioning at the end of the year, all that stuff, and just, talk about it, and other people can come in, voice their opinions in the comments, and we can have a lot of fun this year. So first off, going to talk about the first game, Friday night. Perfect way to kick off the season, by the way. I mean, obviously Friday night to start the season is a little different. It's not what we've come to expect, but it paid off so well because the very first game, hugely entertaining match. Arsenal versus Leicester, 4-3 to Arsenal, goals galore. You got Arsenal who are really trying to make a push this year because depending on whether or not they challenge for the Europa League will depend on whether or not they actually challenge for the title, but they're at least trying to push back for another year in the Champions League, doing as much as they can. Leicester desperate to show that last year was just a fluke, more of a fluke than the year before when they won. But last year they really embarrassed themselves. They just didn't look nearly as good. They looked more like a relegation battle type team than they did 2 years ago when they won the league. So I think this year they're desperate to show. Last year was just, they were missing Conte in the midfield. They were hungover from the year before. And so they're desperate to prove that they are still worthy of competing in this league, even if they're not necessarily champion quality. So both teams going all out for it, ends up with 7 goals in a game. I mean, it's a very good game to watch. In my opinion, neither team really improved as far as their rating at the end of the year. Arsenal, fully what I expect. Very good going forward, a lot of quality. Lacazette comes in, scores himself a goal. Giroud comes off the bench and scores a goal to win it. You've got Ozil, okay. You've got some of the other players showing out, doing fairly well. They don't even have Sanchez in right now, so that's another player that can come in and do well. But they still lack something defensively, and that shows with the 3 goals from Leicester. I mean, obviously, Leicester did very, very well attacking. Vardy and Okazaki both showed up. I thought Fuchs looked a lot better. Honestly, I think the biggest surprise of the game overall was how good Harry Maguire looked for Leicester. Yes, they conceded 4 goals, but honestly, Maguire did do a lot to prevent more chances. It was a very back-and-forth game, and there were a few really good chances that Arsenal had to sort of put the game away early that Maguire was in the way for. And he and Morgan did look a very strong partnership. So I fully expect him to, like I said, do fairly well, middle table. Arsenal, they're going to do well in some of the games. They're going to score a lot of goals, but then they're also going to concede a lot too. So I think based on that, they're probably just going to be outside Champions League again, especially if they're in the Europa League. Even more grueling league than Champions League. So next game came Saturday morning, very early for me, obviously. Watford versus Liverpool, tie 3-3. Good news for Watford because a lot of people were putting them in their list to go down this year. I honestly thought some of their signings looked really good, and I thought they would do okay. Maybe battle relegation, but managed to stay out of it. And I think 3-3 against Liverpool, good result. Obviously it's at home, so you want to not lose at home. But Liverpool, basically what I expect from them. You know, they didn't buy any defenders this year. They look exactly the same as they did last year. Very strong going forward, a lot of quality going forward, but they just got nothing defensively. And so it's just so easy to score on them. Even a team like Watford, one guy, Okaka, beast of a man, but he's just tearing their defense apart because they've got nothing back there. So I think as long as they continue to look poor defensively, look weak defensively, they're not really going to challenge for much this year. They may make it into a Champions League spot over Arsenal, but I just don't see them really doing anything as far as pushing for the title this year. Watford, in my opinion, they stay the same as well, not really moving up or down. West Brom versus Bournemouth, 1-0. Very good result for West Brom, I think. You know, Bournemouth is a team that last year did well and I think made some good signings, and this year trying to do even better. But West Brom is a team that, you know, they're constantly mid-table. They start off very well. They hit their mark where it's like, okay, we're safe, and then they just drop off at the end of the year. So it's kind of an expected result for West Brom. Bournemouth, I think, will be a little bit disappointed because they probably wanted to start off the season well. I still think they'll do well after these signings start to incorporate themselves into the team. I don't even think Defoe started, so I still think they've got enough quality to keep themselves very easily mid-table, possibly challenge, you know, pushing up into the top half of the table if they can. Southampton, Swansea, 0-0 tie. Neither hurts nor helps either of them. I think Southampton probably would have wanted to get off to a better start than that. Obviously, with the new manager coming in, it's always going to be difficult. I think Van Dijk's out because he's injured, just like Coutinho is injured. So I don't know. I think based on this, Swansea will take more away from it just because it's an away game and they got the tie. You know, they managed to keep a clean sheet. They didn't manage to get any goals, but I mean, Southampton's not a pushover, and St. Mary's is a difficult place to go. So I think Swansea probably goes up a little bit in my opinion, probably about where I actually have them on the table instead of lower. But Southampton, I think, will want to do better, will want to try to go and get more goals, especially when they're at home against teams like Swansea, you know, bottom half of the table teams. Everton versus Stoke. Obviously, Rooney scoring is probably one of the biggest stories this weekend. They made a lot of really good signings, getting a 1-0 win over Stoke. Probably would have wanted it to be a little bit more comfortable than 1-0, but at the same time, Stoke, they're trying to, I guess, find their feet. In my opinion, losing Arnautovic is still a big deal for them. Obviously, I put them in the relegation zone in my pick. I think the fact that it was only 1-0 proves that they will be able to battle out for a few games, but I just don't know where the goals are going to come from. So it drops Everton a little bit and moves Stoke up a little bit, but it doesn't really help either team. You know, I think Everton was already challenging for Europa League with the signings they got. I think a 1-0 win doesn't really show that they're dominant or anything. I think Stoke was already going to struggle this year. A 1-0 win kind of helps them a little bit, showing that they do have some defensive stability, managing to hold out a very strong Everton team at home to only one goal. But they need to go get some attacking players because they can't score. I just don't imagine them getting a lot of goals this year without one of their better players in Arnautovic. So probably the second biggest shock game of the weekend, Crystal Palace versus Huddersfield. Huddersfield with a 3-0 win away. Now this is one of the games that wasn't on TV, and unfortunately NBC changed up their whole programming thing to where now you have to pay money to watch the games that aren't on TV, which I just think is stupid, and it's just a sign that, God, this country is so run by money. But based on this result, I can say one of two things happened. One, Palace were pushing so hard to try to get a goal. They are at home, so they probably put forth a lot of attacking effort, and then Huddersfield hit them on the break 3 times. Or Huddersfield is not as bad as everybody's predicting. And it's really funny. Pretty much everybody's put Huddersfield in as one of their teams to go down. This could just be a fluke result. It could be one of those where they started off really strong, kind of like Hull last season, where their first game they beat Leicester at Leicester, and everybody's like, holy crap, Hull may stay up this year, even though they've only got like 10 players. But by the end of the season, it came back to haunt them. They weren't able to continue to do it throughout the entire season. Maybe the same thing for Huddersfield. They may start off very strong, get some good wins in early on, but then as the season progresses, maybe that weariness, the inability to continually do it in the Premier League week in, week out, I could see them dropping off. But based on this, it's a great result for Huddersfield. It's a very poor result for Palace. It's only the first game of the season, obviously, but I think this does move Huddersfield up just a couple places, probably just in the relegation battle. You know, instead of rock bottom of the table, I do see them battling to try to stay out of relegation this year. Palace is probably now in a relegation battle based on this result. Unless things improve next week, they're going to be in and amongst it instead of being fairly safe, which honestly I thought they would be, but shows what I know. Chelsea-Burnley, obviously one I've already talked about. You know, I talked about how this isn't the end of the world. It's not a result that's going to kill us this season. It is just the first game of the season. There were some decisions that I thought were very poor that went against us. But I think based on the second half alone, you can look at it and say they're not dead. They're not done and dusted. This isn't another Mourinho season, as everybody's calling it now. It's going to be an okay season. Obviously, don't see them first place anymore after some of the other results that we saw this weekend. So I will move them down in my overall predictions. But I don't see this knocking them out of the Champions League spots or putting them down 10th place like they were for Mourinho's third season. They have enough fight and desire to show that they're going to make changes. There's going to be something new. Conte is going to do everything he can to make sure that they don't end up terrible this season. They'll go get some more signings. Hazard's not even back yet, so there's that to look forward to. So I think everybody who's talking about the Mourinho season and talking about, oh, this is the end of Chelsea, I think they just need to calm down a little bit. Obviously, a lot of people want Chelsea to fail just because, one, it's Chelsea and teams love to pick on it because we ain't got no history. And also, champions, they love to put pressure on champions. So it's just going to be how it is until Chelsea do find their feet, until some of these signings make their way in. As far as Burnley are concerned, though, I think this is a good result for them, obviously. But it does show that even though they did lose a couple players, even though they're struggling, I think, to win away from home last season, I think this shows that they still got consistency. Sean Dyche is still doing what he can at Burnley to keep them battling. I think they're set for an okay season. I don't think it'll be a completely comfortable thing. I don't see them making it to mid-table, but I do see them getting safe early on and then probably dropping off as the season wears on them a little bit. And the last game on Saturday was Brighton versus Man City. It's one of those things where obviously my bias against Pep, because I think he's arrogant and I really don't like his style of play, makes me want to say that he's not going to be in the Champions League this year. He's going to fail. But I think Man City has enough quality that even when his system does fail, he's got enough players on the field that are going to save him and make him look good, like Jesus, like Aguero, like Sané, like, I don't know, David Silva is another one. I mean, there are enough players out there that when his system fails, they still find a way to pop him and get a goal. And honestly, if Brighton were a better team, I do think they probably would have either tied or lost. I mean, first half, they were struggling a little bit. There's one corner comes in, and Henderson, because he's like 5'0" and probably can't play with his hands, only with his feet, drops the ball in the middle of the box. If Brighton had more quality finishers, easily would have been a goal. But unfortunately, they're just like, holy crap, the ball, it's right there. We're facing Man City. Just shoot. And then they kick it off the defender, kick it off the keeper, and it just bounces out harmlessly. So I just see them struggling again. It's the style that he plays with that we're going to play through our defense. We're going to keep the ball. We're going to keep possession. All it takes is you poke it off one of the defenders. You get a clever striker up there who's sneaking around, who just pokes in, gets the ball away, and now you're 1-on-1 with the keeper who probably can't even save it because he's better with his feet than he is with his hands. So I just see them repeating what they did last season. They did get some better attacking players up top, so I do think they'll be scoring a lot of goals, but I just see so many teams picking them off because they play so dumb, because it's Pep's style of play. But I do, getting a 2-0 win early on is a good start for them. I still say they're in the Champions League spots just because, like I said, they've got enough quality. Brighton, I see them doing okay, but I don't see them getting out of the relegation battle. They've got some decent players from what I saw. They can move the ball around okay. They've got a lot of fight and desire, but it wears on you. I mean, you can't do it every week like that. You can't continually just run nonstop and put a lot of pressure on high-quality players and then not get picked off and not wear down and not lose track of your players. So I see them doing okay to start off. I see them picking up a few wins against smaller teams. I see them probably getting some ties here and there against maybe some of the big teams. Probably like Liverpool, they may tie. But overall, throughout the entire course of the season, I see them in relegation still. And the final two games, first one today was Spurs versus Newcastle. It was at Newcastle. Spurs got off to a good start. Newcastle got off to a very poor start. It was probably the best time to play Newcastle, to be honest. And I'm going to say the same thing about the next game too, but you really look at them, it's their first game back, they're eager to impress, they're kind of like maybe a little bit jumpy, a little bit nervous to, okay, we're back in the league, now we got to show out, we got to do everything we can. They did okay first half, but then second half, early red card from Shelvey, stupidity at its finest, and now you're a man down against the Tottenham side that can very easily pick you apart. I mean, just between Eriksen and Kane alone, you've got two quality players that you don't even need anybody else really, and you can pop up and get a goal. You throw in Ali, who has a lot of quality, even if I don't like him as, you know, his little things that he does that kind of irks players. I love the comment. It was like, Shelvey just did that without any provocation whatsoever. I'm like, did you not see Ali like hold on to the ball and then after he got it poked out of his hands, he kicks it away? You know, he's very clearly like doing little stuff to get under his skin. So as much as I don't like Ali, though, he is a good player. He has a lot of speed. He finds the right areas at the right times in behind the defense. So yeah, it's a great start for Tottenham, but based on what I saw, they did struggle in the first half when Newcastle had 11 men on the field. They didn't really get some of the best shots off. You know, a lot of their shots were kind of desperate at times. Newcastle, obviously, are going to struggle this season, but I do think they are a little bit hurt today by injuries. There are a couple of players that need to come into the side, and on top of that, it's their first game back in the league. They're going to find their feet eventually. Rafa will manage to get them a little bit more organized as the season goes on. So I still see them doing okay and not being in relegation, but it's probably going to be a little bit more of a struggle than I was thinking at the beginning of the season. The last game was Man U versus West Ham, and you got to say that Man U look like title favorites now. And obviously everybody's probably still calling Man City. Like I said, Pep's system won't work. I'm just telling you now, if you're calling Man City and you're not a Man City fan, you're going to be embarrassed probably by the end of the season because his system just doesn't work in this league. Whereas Man U, I mean, it's Jose's second season. Pretty much every second season he's had, I think it's actually every second season he's had, has been a champion-winning side. You look at the players he picked up, you look at some of the formation things that he went through today, and yeah, they look like a title-winning side. You got Matic and Pogba in the middle, both big, burly players, but Pogba is a little bit more attacking. Now he has a bit more freedom to attack with Matic in there. You've got Lukaku, who is managing to put away goals, even if the defense is kind of helping him out by not really doing their duty. You've got enough quality on the bench to challenge for both Champions League and the Premier League. You've got enough quality to switch them in and out if you need to. The one thing, though, that I will say that it keeps me hesitant to say they are definitely going to win the title this year and saying that there's not going to be any other challengers is the defense. And I look at the defense today and I'm just like, it's not that good. You've got Jones in there who can be a liability. You've got Blend who can be a liability. You've got Valencia who's a bit more attack-minded, can sometimes be pulled out of position. You've got Bailly who is just this big burly guy who most of the time can run down players, but if he's called to do a one-on-one situation, he can be embarrassed at times. So I just look at that back line, and obviously you've got De Gea, which really helps, and you got Matic in front of him, which really helps. But if you get in behind Matic, there's a good chance that you're going to run right at their back line. They're going to be disorganized. They're not going to know what to do. As long as you put it away from De Gea, it's going to be a goal. And that's where I look at West Ham, and obviously they did not look their best today. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it's their first game together for a lot of these players. You know, a lot of them are kind of figuring each other out. I do think they've got a very good side from some of the players that they signed this summer. But you look at what Arnautovic was doing compared to what Chicharito is doing, and they're not really hooking up. There are a lot of players that were slow today, passing, moving the ball around was a bit slow. The first goal was because one guy's like, all right, we're Where's the pass? Where's the pass? And then as he's waiting, he tries to hit it, then Matic steps in and pokes it away. So I looked at West Ham and I'm like, they didn't really challenge their back line. And a lot of times they gave the ball away, which just allowed Man U to continually attack. That's why there were 4 goals today instead of like 2, and then West Ham maybe got 1. So I do think this is a good sign for Man U that they are probably going to be one of the title favorites, if not the title favorites for most of the season. But also take into account the fact that West Ham wasn't at their best today. They're probably going to be better as the season goes on, and I think more teams are probably going to challenge Man U's back line more than West Ham did today. And in those games, can there be enough defensive stability to win them the game overall? Or is it going to be another situation where they manage to get a tie because De Gea makes like 20 great saves in a game? So that's about it for all the games overall. I hope it was unbiased to you guys. Obviously, a lot of you may look at the fact I'm a Chelsea fan and just say, whatever, you don't know anything. But I do try to look at it as unbiased as possible. I want to know some other people's opinions just because it's fun to talk about. It's fun to talk about the league. It's fun to talk about what's going to happen this season, who's going to be the favorites, who's going to win it all, who's going to be relegated. So much fun to talk about, so much fun to experience. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Who are your top 4 picks? Who are your bottom 3 picks? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Premier League reviews, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.